This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. He told me that playing guitar had no transferable skills, and yet cooking, yeah? Chef Cordy. Take your grater, hold your hard cheese like a pick, and down pick like it's mad for a puppet.
You're going to cut yourself. Oh, look what you're doing. You're going to cut yourself.
I do this all day, every day, mate.
Okay, this is really not the most nice thing to watch you do with your right hand, mate.
All YouTubers failed musicians. So this is one of these things that I've sort of thought about myself, because obviously a lot of my effort is now focused on sort of playing guitar on YouTube or making videos for YouTube, and maybe sometimes it can be a little bit of a confusing thing for some folks. You know, why would you put your energy in this, or do you play in a real band, all these sorts of things. And typically the way that I think about this is that if anyone has like a really happening career, generally I don't think they have time to do much on YouTube, right? So the thing that changed this, I think, was lockdown. And then you started to see that a few people started to crop up on YouTube, or in other ways, you know, whether they would start doing Patreon stuff or whatever, because they couldn't do the main kind of job that they normally do, whether it was Jonathan Christberg, Andy Wood, Josh Smith, some of these really amazing players. I think Andy Timmons even started doing a bit. Eric Johnson started doing some kind of lessons on YouTube. I think it kind of showed me that it's a thing that people can do when maybe, you know, there aren't as many opportunities. So for me, for instance, the reason that I started doing YouTube stuff, I live in the southwest of England. There's not tons of gigs around, or not like tons of like exciting gigs, or things that you can just show up to and stuff like that. I think about 2015 was when I started to actually get some paid work, and it happened via going to some jam nights and stuff like that, and getting in with some people that did function gigs and wedding gigs. Paddy Blight, who plays bass for that pedal show, is probably responsible for most of the start of my sort of paid career as a function musician. What happens, if you're not aware of what happens for like a lot of function musicians as well, you tend to start a band or get into a band, and a lot of the gigs are quite repetitive and quite similar. You do either sort of wedding gigs, pub gigs, or functions and stuff like that, and after a while they can become quite repetitive. I guess it's probably the same for most musicians, right? I think once you've played gigs for about a year or so, presumably it starts to get to the stage where it's like, well, whatever level you're at, presumably there's a little bit of this is now a job. So for instance, I know Bill Banwell plays bass for Rag and Bone Man, flies all over the world playing bass. Rob Harris, Jamiroquai guitarist, plays all around the world playing guitar. I think there are parts of the job which look amazing, and then there's probably the reality of other parts of the job where actually sort of rehearsing for weeks, or battling with sound guys, or traveling on planes all through the year, maybe those things aren't super fun. People ask me quite often about like original music and stuff, and you can find it if you really want to. There's some on Spotify, there's some on Bandcamp. I also have like a SoundCloud from many years ago, and there's even a SoundClick from many years before that. My most successful band was Boa, and they're on Spotify, still something like 10,000 listeners a month. We got played on Radio 1, we got synced to Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, is that what it's called? The thing with John Krasinski on Amazon. And our music got used in a scene where there was a suicide bomber going into a cafe. So that was kind of cool in some ways. The thing was, even though we got played on Radio 1 and we had like relative amounts of success compared to any sort of original bands that I knew and still know in general, there's not really stable money in that sort of stuff. And when you do earn a bit of money, it takes like a year to kind of trickle through. So even though there were levels of success to that band, it wasn't reliable enough to work on, and I had to prioritize kind of function music over that. Now, I think that band was signed to like a publishing deal. Without that, again, I don't know how we would have made any money. It's a super difficult business to make money from. And so for me now that I have a kid and I have a wife and that, the reason that I do the YouTube stuff is to be able to play guitar kind of every day and still, have some sort of hand in making music. What I used to do before YouTube was kind of make these things and do the same sorts of things that I'm doing now, but there wouldn't be like an end result for me. And each YouTube video is now kind of an opportunity to, at the first kind of 2-3 minutes, put together a piece of music. It might be inspired by some other piece of music, like today it is The Midnight. They got this tune called Golden Gate, which I had this amazing groove, and I just thought I have to work out what's going on here, try and recreate bits of it. I think that's a really good way to try and be creative in this space as well. Kind of all of the best musicians, Mozart, Beethoven, Handel, these folks did used to take from one another and use the same themes and recreate them and try and transform them. I think imitating as well within the guitar world, copying other people's licks. Everyone does it, and it's a great way to start learning. So I think it's the same for music as well. But as I say, yeah, I'm creating these little bits of music at the start. They're not permanent. They're all improvised, all of the playing on them. It's not sort of anything important, and I don't think it matters, but that is the idea. It's kind of like a selfish thing for me to be able to play guitar each day. For me, the reality now as well is I don't think I could do some of the kind of touring things that maybe when I was younger I thought I would like to do. I don't think it's that easy to leave a newborn kid and all that stuff. If you do want me to play on your recordings and stuff, that's something that I'm open to doing. I have done a little bit like for the keyboard player from Marillion, where I went to Real World. I've done some more stuff for Ollie if you like my playing at all. But the question, you know, are YouTubers failed musicians? I think in some ways, if they've got enough energy to really put loads into their YouTube, then I think it shows probably the other career stuff is maybe not as happening as it might be. That might be through choice, or that might just be through lack of opportunity. So like for me, in the southwest of England, if I moved to London, maybe there'd be more opportunities and stuff like that. But I'm kind of happy living in the sticks, in the country. So I don't think that I'm doing anything important or that you should aspire to. And probably it is a little bit of a failure, right? But hopefully it's a failure that sounds okay sometimes. That is also why I don't kind of present my stuff as like, this is what you should do, particularly, you know, like you could maybe learn the licks and stuff. And I jokingly title them things you need to learn. You obviously don't, but they kind of could be fun. And some of you guys do ask, you know, what were you doing at this point here, or how are you thinking about that? That was how like the lesson stuff kind of just grew organically from putting up clips where I didn't used to talk at all. You know, I used to just play and do the front half of the video, just play a bit of music that I liked, and people started to ask like, what were you doing there? Could you talk about your legato, all these bits? And it kind of organically grew. So I hope it's not an entire waste of your time, my presence on here. But I do think that there is something to be said for someone like me who is not really out there in the real world doing too much. It's probably a little bit of a, you know, you be careful, don't listen to them too much, probably. Equally, I think some of these folks that do have these really burgeoning careers aren't necessarily always the best teachers anyway. So maybe there is a thing like the best teachers maybe aren't the best players. I don't know how that shakes out. Rambling now, aren't I? Anyway, here's that backing track. I'll just stick that on the end for you to play to. Patreon will be the place to get most of my backing tracks, the lessons and all that stuff, and keep me in nappies for the near future. Let me know your thoughts. Is it okay to just be playing guitar online? You know, obviously I do still play in function bands and stuff like that, and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, if you are in the southwest at a wedding, you may see me one day playing Living on a Prayer. I do love playing that tune, actually. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers.